It's John Dar. Thanks for signing up for our online pedal event, and welcome to day one. So each day of this event, we're basically going to take a different type of pedal and go through it and through variations of it and show you what they do and things like that, and if they might be useful to you. Yes. Today is day one, and we're going to look at drive pedals. So all kinds of things that are going to make your amp sound a little bit more rocky, a little bit more volume, and a little bit more chutzpah, for lack of a better word. Yeah. So
it's quite a variation in our sort of thrown together pedal board. You have to forgive us really, because we haven't got. These are generally all. These are our stock pedals here, so we're not putting vodka on the back of them. So forgive us for being a bit untidy with it, but. Nonetheless, what we're going to do is we're just going to cover about 3 different types of drive.
Yeah.
Now, the 3 different types would be an overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. All right. We have got a boost, which is not an overdrive, but you can use it with your drives.
Yeah, so but we'll talk about that later. Boosts can fall under the drive category.
Because it is driving.
Yes, and there'll be a little bit of crossover, so to speak, between.
It's not an overdrive. Right, so difference then between overdrive, distortion and fuzz. They are all clipping the signal, so that's what the clipping is. What makes the distortion. All right. The difference is that your overdrive is soft clipping, your distortion is hard clipping. The fuzz, the way it clips the signal, generally not with diodes. I think it's more clipping the transistor that gives you a different sort of characteristic. But as we're going to hear, there's lots of different things with regards to different sounds of fuzz as well. Yeah.
And in layman's terms, John's talking about those clipping things, soft clipping, hard clipping. You know, the drives with soft clipping is essentially a lighter form of it. Yes. Hard clipping is going to give you a more extreme example of that. So if you imagine an overdrive would be like level 1 of distortion. Distortions are level 2. You know, you're up a stage. Fuzzes then can be very extreme. You know,
well, really. They, as we're going to find out, they do so many different sounds. I think that's the thing. Once you delve into them. I would say that the distortion tends to be very aggressive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, well, we can kind of hear these differences. I think what we do is we start with the overdrive.
Yeah.
So the first on our board, if you look at that green pedal, which is by Dara's
large burgundy foot. This is a tube screamer. This is the Tube Screamer Mini. Tube Screamer is probably a word you've heard because it's one of the most famous, one of the most common pedals you'll find out there. A lot of different people use it.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose back in the day, you would have, you know, imagine using like a big old Fender Twin, and it's got lots of headroom. It's flipping loud, but very clean. But the trouble is we wanted a slightly distorted sound. To get any distortion out of the Twin, you had to have it uncomfortably loud. But the Tube Screamer, what it does is it obviously gives us the sound of a slightly cranked amp, and that's what kind of overdrive is, that sort of sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we're getting it at a lower volume. So at the moment we've got a sort of clean tone. Right.
Very nice.
Now if we put the Tube Screamer on. Well, so you can hear there's a slight bite to the note.
Yeah.
So it's giving it the impression that the amp's working hard. The amp isn't, but
you can hear there as well. I mean, that's not a huge amount of, you know, what I would call distortion. As you said, it's that bite, a bit more push to the amp.
Yeah. It's doing that thing, I think. It makes it very. Overdrives are quite dynamic, aren't they? From the point of view that, you know, you've got. You can hear my sound is quite clean there. And yet now it's kind of. It's just putting a bit more sustain and.
So we're talking about there is a lot of these pedals will do this, but the overdrives particularly react really well to how you pick. So when you back off and pick lighter, you're getting that nicer, cleaner sound. Dig into it, hit it hard.
So, you know, that's I suppose, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan, players like that are really known for tube screamers.
Yep.
They are also used in other genres. Don't, you know, just because we're using that kind of sound, it doesn't mean that that's all a tube screamer can do, because
tube screamers have a lot of different applications. We're going to talk about maybe one other good application of a tube screamer towards later, because we're going to start talking about putting these pedals together and different sounds that can get us. But yeah, that's a tube screamer. Again, just for the sake of argument, all the controls on this are pretty much at noon, which is their what we would call neutral position. So volume's pretty much up in the middle to give you a little bit of lift out of this. Tone, that control on the left, is basically going to be darker or brighter, and it's up in the middle, so just kind of its neutral position. And a moderate amount of drive there. Even if I were to crank that up, John, please hit a chord or two for me there. So not a huge amount of gain out of that, just really thickening things up.
yeah.
So moving on from that and something much more different then.
Still an overdrive, but obviously the tube screamer was, you know, what, late 70s, early 80s? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I want to say late 70s.
You
know,
so late 70s.
If you can correct us.
Late 70s. The Santorana Overdrive is certainly not a tube screamer, but it is an overdrive, so it's a soft clipping overdrive. But it does have some extra features. You may notice that if you're looking at the other camera, we've got a lot more sort of knobs on it. It's not just one tone control. We've got a 3-band EQ there, so we've got bass, middle, and treble, and the addition of a boost switch as well. But although they're both overdrives, because the tube screamer has that big sort of mid hump, when we plug in the Santorana, it will have a mid hump, but it won't be as pronounced, would it? You can hear there's a heck of a lot more volume coming out of it, but it's quite a lot more top end presence in there.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, you can dial that out with this. I'll turn it off once I'm talking. You can dial that out, but instantly you can hear that thick tube screamer mid range is certainly different to this sound. So I can hear just is that much more sort of presence there.
Yeah,
that we can get from it.
With these, again, as John said, with all the EQ and things, it really means that you can tweak it as you wish to do something different with your amp, or you know, if you're playing with different amps a lot, if you're experimenting with different speaker combinations and stuff, that can maybe counteract a brighter or darker amp, or just give you a few different sounds from one pedal.
Yeah.
The other thing John talked about was the boost.
Yes.
So some of these pedals, some more modern pedals, come as almost like a 2 pedals in one kind of vibe, where you have that standard overdrive, and that's a great sound as it is. But if you wish, you can knock that on and get a bit more volume and a bit more drive from it, which is going to give you 2 noticeable levels. So can you give me just the standard overdrive, and then
it's
more volume, a little bit more saturation. You know, the idea there being that there's 2 sounds in one box, so that distorted tone that he has, the overdrive could be his rhythm sound, and then when he whacks on the overdrive, standing out a little bit in, say, a lead part, or just a part of a song that needs a little bit more volume, that works. And with that, I mean, that's 3 sounds, because there's your amp as it is, whether that be clean, or, I mean, you could run your amp with a little bit of drive. I mean, that's just kind of on the edge.
Yeah, with this single coil, it's probably not right. It's quite
then, say that's your clean sound, your main dirt sound. And with that boost on top of the overdrive, we're getting kind of saturated. We're nearly getting into distortion territory there.
We are.
With that
it's what you're driving one gate stage into another, and hence you're getting slight more compression in there, but it certainly is giving more drive, definitely.
So that's overdrive. We don't want to say that's overdrive summarized entirely, because there's umpteen different versions of it. People talk about clone type pedals and TS type pedals, and all different kinds of things.
We just haven't got hours to talk about.
Again, that's just a few examples. We're going to move on now and look at the next stage up, which is distortion. So full kind of distortion, which is that hard clipping. As John had said, it's hard clipping, which is basically it does distort the sound. It's not a case of just lifting things and pushing them, whereas you're going to hear quite a big difference.
Yeah, it's quite an aggressive. It's generally higher gain and a more aggressive type of drive.
So, Boss DS1.
Yeah, I tell you what I might do. You've got the humbuckers. It's more. DS1 is a classic, really. I suppose back in the day you would have had the likes of Steve I would have had sort of DS1s smashed into driven amps and stuff like that. It would have been used quite a lot in the 80s. Still used now. Kurt Cobain used the DS1, didn't he?
Yeah, Kurt Cobain pretty much one of the big names.
And it's a very humble pedal, and it's not boutique in that it costs the earth or anything like that. And if you're into distortion, it can be, for a lot of people, as a good introduction. However, I do feel it is a little bit misunderstood. I think it works really well. You can hear that the amp's driving a little bit because you're playing the humbuckers, and when it works together, the DS1 really comes alive. If you put that in a clean twin,
it might not
sound quite as great, but into something slightly driven, it works really well. So I think we'll let you play through. So if you listen to Darrow's clean sound, it's got a little you can hear it. That's pushing the amp a bit more. Now, if we use the DS1, so what I can hear is straight away is there's a lot of bass coming out from that circuit as well.
Kind of sound.
It does. The DS1 can borderline almost sort of fuzzy in its sound, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is a classic distortion sound, and works ever so well. It's very simple. All it has is just a tone, a level, and a distortion. A bit like how the Tube Screamer works, in that it's just a bit of treble roll off, some gain, and then how loud you want that pedal to be.
And again, the reason for the volume of your distortion pedal is you kind of want to match your clean sound with your distorted sound. You don't want to have a really loud, clean tone, and then when you go for the big heavy bit of the song in your chorus, you suddenly drop in volume. You want those to be matched, or more.
On the flip side, if you're driving this and you want to use this just to add a bit more sort of gain saturation, there's many ways. So that you can do. There's many other ways you can run it, depending on how you're running the amp.
Yeah. So I mean DS1. I mean I don't think there's much more to talk about there. It's a big, thick, cool distortion.
Yes.
Do me a favor on the tone knob. Just turn the tone knob up a little bit. See what other kind of. It's very.
Yeah, it does start shelving the bass end as well when that comes up, but it really just does make it a little more flexible to how you want it if you're running single coils, humbuckers, yada yada, etc.
So on the other hand,
we've got the Full Moon. So I think DS1 was an early one. Full Moon is a bit more recent, probably the last year or so. So it has more knobs on it, a bit like the Santorana. So we've got the sort of treble, middle and bass, so a little more flexibility rather than just a tone control. This tends to have a much more sort of precise.
yeah, it's a lot clearer, a lot more bite and definition to the notes.
Yeah.
So depends what kind of distortion you're personally after. I think the DS1 sounds great for big, thick, chordy kind of riffs. If you were playing slightly more intricate stuff,
This works.
Full Moon I think sounds great.
Lovely. So I mean, you can hear straight away that sort of where the DS1 was a borderline sort of had a fuzziness sound to it. That certainly hasn't. That's quite tight, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's the best. It's not even to say that it's brighter. I mean, it's just something about that low end that's there is a lot kind of tighter.
Yes, most definitely. It might be something to do with this bite switch as well that can make a difference. So with the bite on, you can hear there's just a little more top end presence in there. And again, with the Fender, what makes it great is that you can, again, you've got an extra gain stage, really, haven't you?
The boost on there is great for maybe taking a lead break.
So let's have a listen to that.
Yeah, that lifts everything, makes the notes pop out a wee bit more.
So it's great if you're into the heavier stuff or whatever, and you just need something. If you could use that as a rhythm and a lead sound, couldn't you?
Yeah, and I just think if you're playing slightly more notey stuff, if you're trying to play slightly more notey stuff like I am, it just makes all the notes just pop out a little bit clearer. And so it's a different thing. It just depends on the style of music that you're playing. That might not be necessarily the pedal you want to play if you're in a grunge band. DS1 might work a bit better for that, a bit thicker, but just different flavors.
They are.
So distortions, again, there's tons of different options up there. There's ones that are kind of advertised to be for maybe certain genres. You pedals that are this is a for heavy metal, things like that. There's no rules with it.
I think what else is interesting is that they all react differently to different amps as well. So and it's very hard to label one thing, isn't it?
Exactly, and different pickups as well. I think I'm playing this with some fairly high output humbuckers. Plays with single coils, P90s, or just different things. They will react differently.
Yeah, definitely.
Shall we look at fuzz?
Yeah, fuzz. So you can see we've got two fuzzes out here today. We've got the MXR fuzz, the 108 fuzz. Now this is based on a fuzz face. The 108, I think it's to do with the B108C chip, not chip, transistor. That was used on some of the silicon fuzz faces, and it gives it that sort of tone, along with the sort of hammerite paint job on it, kind of gives it away as well. But great, real small footprint on the board. I suppose what we think fuzz faces, we think Jimi Hendrix, we think
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson, not Robert Johnson. He was before fuzz boxes. So you can get a lot of classic sounds. Now we'd often think of fuzz as being one of those things that's really over the top, which it can be. But there's a lot of, we'll delve into a lot of different kind of tones. So Darren, if you play for me at the moment, let's in some ways can be similar to that DS1, but there is a different feel to it, and it is a little more sort of retro in some ways.
Yeah, it's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah,
very over the top, very thick, very low endy.
Yeah.
I mean, John just mentioned a lot of lovely players like Eric Johnson and things like that there, and then I just went and played it in a completely different context. That real big, thick kind of, I don't know, stoner rock kind of.
Can use a lot of that. Yeah, it is used everywhere, but it can. They clean up really well. So
I was gonna say that's it with humbuckers. It's worth seeing just how differently the fuzz can react with single coils.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pass this back to John in 2 seconds, and you hear the dynamic range that a fuzz pedal can give you.
Yeah. So it is still quite unruly, but the nice thing with a fuzz is if I just take that back, and a lot of the time I never used to think, I used to think fuzz was all out, but
it's quite impressive that this is probably the most extreme drive that we've had so far.
Yeah.
And how lovely and clean.
Yeah.
That is just from literally rolling back the volume knob on the guitar. So really cool. Again, fuzzes are one of those things that react very well to how you pick your volume, and also, as I say, the pickups. I mean, if you want to do like that type of huge low endy thing I was doing, that humbucker works really, really well.
Yeah.
The single coils are a bit more dynamic than the
So, when we think about fuzz, it can do so many things. It isn't just a one-trick pony. Just by how it interacts with your guitar, it works really differently, and the fuzz face does that really well. And short of me playing like a bag of spanners today, but it's sort of it is a great fun thing to do. So that's kind of like the fuzz face type circuit. Again, with the Fender, we've got the Trapper.
This is kind of cool. This is really obnoxious.
It is, isn't it?
There's 2 different types of fuzz in this you can flick between. It's not stackable like the other pedals because stacking fuzzes would get a bit out of hand. But
horrendous.
there are 2 different types of fuzz and 2 different tones. One of them also has a kind of cool feature in the octave fuzz.
Yeah.
The idea of that is it literally takes whatever note you're playing. Give me some volume.
Yeah, it's slightly.
And then the octave above that, it adds that in. So you get some very cool.
It's quite a unique thing. It's not like our the sub and up octave pedal. It doesn't work. You only get it in certain sort of areas. You kind of play about it. It's based on the old I think it's called the Tycho Brahe octave effect. Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze. Think of that. Had it all on there. It's a kind of take on that.
Well, let's hear the first, just the standard
let's just turn it on.
fuzz.
Yeah.
Should be type 1.
Right. Okay. So.
Flick it.
What this?
Yeah.
That's the type 2.
Okay. Type 1. So
we're back here. that real sort of glitchy sort of fuzz. So you can hear the character of those two. That's the beauty of fuzz, isn't it? Is that you can get some wildly different types of character.
Yeah, there's something about this pedal almost verges on sounding broken. Especially in mode 2. So again, just mode 1 very well. And that's one thing people like fuzz for is sustain tends to come off the pedal.
Yeah, it does.
So just push that select switch to flick it over to the other fuzz.
And that's got that real spitty gated sort of sound.
It's only you hear there's one band I had there and it sounded like the speaker went nope.
Yeah,
for a
I know, it's so
second.
cool. So hopefully that will pick it up. But then we can stick the octave effect on there as well. I think we had it on originally actually.
Yeah, flick that switch up there and we'll see. Subtle. It's not all there. As in certain notes it doesn't want to play. There's certain things I'm playing there that it sounds like that. The amp is just almost where the pedal is compressing too much and sort of goes, no, I can't have that. Yeah. It sounds kind of broken. It's very spitty, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, can I hear that with single combination?
Yeah, go
It's such a cool effect. I think the octave came out. When we had the so I think the interesting thing there is that the octave was more pronounced out of this guitar than that guitar.
Yeah. Again, the humbuckers maybe emphasising that low end more, so we'll get more of that thick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but real good additions to that, isn't there? You know.
Very, very
so you know, if you want to, you know, sort of push all those sort of retro sounds.
I'm gonna try and wrap this video up. We're gonna talk about two other things. So the first thing that we did mention that we had this clean boost.
Yeah.
So the clean boost, if you turn off that fuzz there for me. A boost, the idea with it is it's supposed to lift your volume and not distort the amp. The way amps work, that's not really doable all the time. If you're very high headroom amp, you can do that.
So we've got, before the boost is on, so you can hear that.
My guitar's pretty high output. So.
Yeah, and it's driving that amp already, isn't it? It's breaking up much more than when this guitar's in. However, when you put the boost in, we are getting we're getting a nice We are getting a level boost there.
Yep.
If you put, I've got a feeling if you put the humbucker in, it will definitely.
Yeah, bridge humbucker. A little bit of.
It's giving you a little extra gain. But the other thing there is that you can use that in so many different ways, because that boost, say you've got say you've already got a tube screamer,
Yep.
right, or a DS1, and you want to turn your DS1 to do the similar sort of boosting things that the full one does. So if I take the gain back on this DS1, and then you bring the engager boost in,
It's really nice because without that, it's
so
adds a bit more bite, a bit more clarity.
it does.
To that.
There is also there's also some EQ settings on there that you can really tailor that boost. It's not just a level boost, which is quite nice, because you know, I think we've got a Moore boost over there, and some of the smaller Sparks they don't necessarily have the same control. If you use that with a tube screamer, so say you wanted to get, say you had your, let's turn that on. So again, boosting that.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Works very well.
So you can use it depending on where you put it, and you can use it to kind of give you. It was definitely boosting the gain section of that.
Yeah, we did say as well, we would show you, a lot of people actually do use a tube screamer like this.
Yes.
It's very common to do is to knock off the overdrive, but whack up your volume. So now if I show you what that's like on a clean tone, for example.
Right, okay, so...
That's just been clean. It's still driving, but again it's more...
It's giving you a subtle lift, the EQ hump that's giving you that boost, and also it's giving you a tiny bit more gain, isn't it?
Give me some DS1. And if we use the tube screamer into that. That's the worst kept secret in kind of heavy metal guitar. And a lot of like 80s rock and stuff as well is the tube screamer or some sort of overdrive pedal like that into an already distorted amp or already distorted pedal. Just tightens everything up and makes it a bit more aggressive and a bit more that pick articulation.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean,
well, that's gone through the
kind
drives
of
today, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, how this is working is we have got some Q&As that we're doing throughout the week.
Yes.
So you know, if you have any questions about any of the pedals or other pedals, well, any other drives pedals, or any questions about it, how you set them up or whatever.
How you set them up, how you use them, you know, if you've got a particular artist that you really like, who you like, I'm kind of after this kind of sound, what kind of drive pedal should I be looking at there? You know, ask us anything at all to do with drive pedals. And there's going to be a few other days this week where we're talking about, you know, modulations, and like tomorrow, for example, is delays and reverbs.
That's right.
And basically things like how to put a pedal board together, what you would need to do that, and how to go around it. So today, ask us anything you can think of about drive pedals, and we'll endeavour to answer any and all questions. If you know, we probably won't know it, but we'll Google it.
You might even get some some free merch out of it and stuff like
Right,
that.
yeah, we occasionally have some free things to give away, so don't be afraid to put your name in the hat. And yeah, I guess that kind of wraps us up.
Yeah,
Thanks very much for joining
Thanks so
us,
much, guys.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.